And welcome to another episode of DIOTAK. I'm Dio. Let's talk. My guest of the evening. I'm super excited. She's a journalist. She's a podcaster. She's a metalhead. She's a bass player. She has a amazing voice. Amazing that she could do radio. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Emilee Capogni. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, dude. Thank you for having me and taking the time for me, man. I appreciate it. I'm excited.
Well, first of all, thank you. I thought, I was nervous because I didn't know if you would respond because I started following you on in Link. That's how I found you. That's how I try to get a variety of guests on the show. And I found you and I went through this rabbit hole. You have such amazing content, right? But also I became a fan because I love your voice, first of all. Like you have an amazing, like to do radio,
Yeah.
like Howard Stern stuff, right? And I hit you up there, and I waited a couple of weeks. I didn't get no response. So as I learned more and more about you, I found your email, and I took a risk. I sent you it and crossed my fingers. And we're here.
Well, here's my thing. Like a lot of the stuff I don't really check on. Any social media like Instagram or email is the easiest way to reach me, and I'll respond to those, but I never saw your message till email. And then when I wrote you back, you're like, when you said that, I was like, I think I'm very approachable. I was like, of course I would take an interview. Like, why not? Talk about yourself for a while, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, thank you. It's an honor. This dive in it. Like, what inspired you? I know you love metal, right? Metal music, but what inspired you to jump and start this career of journalist and podcasting and speaking with these amazing talented artists?
So the pandemic hit, no music, we're not doing any shows, we're not doing anything like that. So I get this message from a guy named Andy Ford. He has a radio thing called Razor Radio. He's like, I think you'd be perfect. You've been in the industry for so long. You have a voice. Everyone knows who you are in the like thrash world. I think you'd be perfect for you. And I was like, I don't know, I'm a little shy, man. And he's like, I think you'll do perfect. And I hopped in there and I was really quiet at the beginning. If you watch my first or listen to my first few radio interviews, I'm just like silenter than a mouse. I was quiet. And I started off with that. And then it became a whole new thing, Um, where I got into radio, met a lot of bands, worked with a lot of publicists, worked with a lot of major labels. That turned into me kind of like drifting off from radio because it's a lot of editing, not gonna lie. I
Wow.
edited everything, added all the music. Then I went to podcasting. Did that for I'm still doing that. I still have my show. Um, and then I approached this day in metal and I was like, I interview a lot of bands. It'd be cool to have a voice, in writing form. And they're like, let's see how you do. And we've been killing it ever since.
Nice. So you also not just the interview, but you also write articles about them and whatnot.
Yes, I
Well,
started doing
so that really attracted me. Um, were you nervous? Like, was just antsy meeting these amazing fan? You're a fan, right? So you're meeting these artists. Was that like nerve-wracking for you?
here and there. There's bands I get more excited to interview than like other bands. It's nothing against the other bands. Like I interviewed Billy Sheehan yesterday, and that's going to be released next week. My smile is like a mile long, like the whole entire interview. Or Tony Campos, another dude I look up to as a bass player, or Doro. Like everyone knows who Doro is, and she's like the queen of metal. People like that. Yes, I was like, oh my God, I gotta and then there's like bands like Flotsam and Jetsam, or there's bands like Frozen Souls, she's a friend of mine, or bands like Bonded by Blood. I've known them for years. I don't get like scared or nervous compared to people that you grew up loving.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite band that you love hearing that you grew up listening to?
Grew up listening to. I still stick to a lot of like my dad's into glam. He got me into Motley Crue and he got me into like Cinderella, LA Guns. I love bands like that, but then I also have my thrash side where I could never stop listening to Motorhead. Those fancy little licks he does and how he talks and Van Halen. Like those are ones I can't live without, but they're not ones I live with every day. If I have to go to a day-to-day thing, I would say Motionless in White. I love Lorna Shore. I love Carnifex. I'm more of a deathcore girly now slash metalcore. compared to that, but those are ones that stay in my rotation, like Motley Crue and stuff.
Nice, nice. How long have you been playing bass?
Started in fifth grade. My parents asked me what I want to do. I was like, let's do drums. Well, that's a lot of work, man. Four
Yeah.
limbs going at the same time. And then I started bass in fifth grade because I watched them. This is where the Motley Crue thing comes in. I was watching Motley Crue with my dad, and Nikki Sixx showmanship, man, has that stage presence. And I was like, I want to do that. Oh my God. And I was like, yes, let's do this. So they brought me to the music store. I think 2 months later, got my first bass and been doing it ever since.
Nice. You're in LA, right? You live in LA?
Yeah, yeah. I live in LA.
Is there still like, because I'm here in New Jersey, is there still like record stores over there? Because over here, like I know as a kid, I used to go all the time because my big sister, she was a dancer. So
Yeah.
she was in a group and we used to go all the time. And here in Jersey, like, everything is digitalized. So that experience of you know, going to a record, looking at it, reading it, and then just browsing through the other options that they have. Are there any over there?
Yeah, we have Amoeba, and there's like small little record shops too, but Amoeba's like the go-to one because they have action figures, they got CDs, they got if you're a physical media person, that's the place to go. But if you also come down towards like Montclair, they got Rhino Records, or if you go to Upland or Laverne, there's a place called Penny Lane. Those are like some of the ones I actually go to all the time. Amoeba's a big one though because they have so much that you can find. Because I collect vinyl. I don't know if you knew that I have like 800 vinyls in the other room.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's an art form. It's so much rich history.
What I love and I talk about with my guests often, like I talked to Lindsay Schoolcraft a few weeks ago. She's a physical media girly too. It's all about the art. It's all about being able to see how beautiful art is and it being put out there like that, you know? And that's why I collect it.
Yeah. I mean, it's for me, it was like the experience, to like able to own something physical that if you like, like you go and see these amazing artists and can you sign this for me? Like now it's everything is just like there's no sense of ownership for me, in my opinion.
I agree. Like, and I love that the vinyl records are coming back. That's became like a really huge thing again, I
Hmm.
feel. And it's amazing because now you have bands coming out with like it's not just black vinyl, there's splatter, splits. Lindsay Schoolcraft had it where it looked like stained glass. Like that's
Yeah,
cool, man. I love stuff
definitely.
like that. I live
Yeah.
for it.
What's and like you when you're in the industry, like what is something that you feel like has changed that has affected like before, it was like when I was growing up it was cassettes, then CDs, and then we had the MP3s, and then it became, iPhone, everything. Like, do you think that has affected the mainstream of the genre of metal?
Yes and no. I think that it makes it very hard to make a living now because of streaming. And I think, but it's easier. Am I going to put a record player in my car? No, but it affects it money wise. Like streaming's a lot easier, but vinyl is a lot prettier, you know? And like I grew up in the CD era. CDs were the big thing. Then you went to the early 2000s where iPods came out and iPads and all that. Like the computer I have right here, like doesn't even have a disk drive on it anymore. That's
Wow.
how insane like physical media became. It's like obsolete in a way. I think it affects it in a money way, but that's just how it works. You know,
Yeah.
streaming's easier for a lot of people and it's cheaper. I spend, I think, 16.99 a month to have Apple Music,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, basically. And is there like, and watching your videos, like your guests are telling you like we're always on tour. Like we're always
Mhm.
on tour. Like no uh sense of break. Like the last one I was watching, he's in two different bands. Like so like it's insane. And we're like, it's true what they say nowadays, like you want to make money, you gotta go on tour. That's where the money's at because, physical CDs, like you know, you the game has changed so much, with these streaming platforms that I agree with you. It's affecting the artist.
what I learned, I was like I told you earlier, I was interviewing Michael from Flotsam and Jetsam earlier, and we were talking about how shirt sells, like how they make it harder for because they take a cut of every merch. I think there's money to be made in touring, but it's very expensive to tour, and I feel like you have to endlessly tour. Like Billy Sheehan was telling me yesterday when I was interviewing him, he's like, I like doing long runs of tours because you have to think when we're like 2 months in, or like a month in, everything got paid back. So now the rest of it's all of our money compared to if you do a short run where you have to pay all that. There's gas, there's food, there's this and that. So I think touring can be successful, but it's very expensive. And I feel like how Tony Campos does, where he tours like I don't know. I was joking around 300 days out of the year, but it's probably like 9 to 10 months because he has Fear Factory and Static.
Yeah,
I feel like you have to do long runs to make money for
you
it.
gotta hustle. You gotta hustle.
Yeah, it's all
Like he said, he has a mortgage to pay.
yeah, and like a lot of people don't get that. They think that touring's just easy and but no, it's really expensive. A lot of these bands, like look at Sum 41. I interviewed Cone, and I think it was June, endlessly touring. It took us like 3 months to schedule that. Billy Sheehan took us 2 months, like because all these bands are hustling. Like that's what you have to do. There's not that much money in the music industry as people want to think. I
Hmm.
think there's money to be made, but I think it's very hard to. You have to endlessly work for it.
Yeah, it's a repetition, you know? Like
Yeah.
even I apologize if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Like Dora,
Sure.
episode 20, like she was demonstrating her whole album, like a physical form, right? Like how long haven't, unless like you're independent, because I've interviewed gentlemen that are doing everything themselves, coming out of pocket, and you see the physical form. But I haven't watched that, seen something like that in a long time for a major artist.
Well, a lot of these bands, like, they have contracts, and sometimes it's easier to do it yourself, and sometimes it isn't, because, like, you have to think it costs money to have studio time, unless you have a studio at your house and you can mix it yourself, which some people don't, and they don't have the time for that. And that's where money comes into play. Then you have to think of distribution and promotion, and a lot of that's missing, which the label like Century Media, Metal Blade, Nuclear Blast, Season of Mist, they offer that, or they have publicists that offer that, which I work with a lot of the publicists for those. And it's harder, I think, to do it yourself. It's the cheaper way to go with the label if you can get with the label. But the horrible thing is the label's gonna mess with you. They're gonna make you sign a contract that could be really horrible, or it can be really good for your career. Like when I interviewed Enforced, like I think it was last year. He was saying he has a deal with Century Media, but everything like the shirts and the distribution comes from them. And that's where they have a contract with. And he says it's cheaper to do it that way.
Wow. So they basically make the merchandise, and he would just get, it's like if you open one of these e-commerce stores that you get it print on demand, they'll do it for you, you get your cut, whatnot,
Yeah.
which is good, if you're selling in bulk, a
Yeah.
lot, it's good. So man, you know what I found, I'm always looking for different, diverse. I don't like to stay in a box, right?
Mhm.
And what I find intriguing in researching and looking is that like individuals like yourself who focus on metal, who are really passionate about this, like you don't see them like on social media or like mainstream unless you're looking for it. Like it's a lot of and not nothing to them, but me, I would like to see an options of a diverse music thing, right? A form.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of hip hop and they're talking rap, but I don't see like good interviews like yours popping up on social media or on InLinked or all these platforms. Do you think it's because the 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 like you said, companies have more control now through media than back then?
I think a lot of this like whole interviewing and podcasting thing, it's all based on what people are interested in. The labels and the publicity people, the PR, they don't really have any say in what happens with that. Like when I schedule an interview, which hardly happens with the labels nowadays, I mostly go through the bands because that's where I'm at in my career. Um, they don't have any say. The only say that they do have is don't release the interview until the album's out. I think it's more based on what people want to interview on and what they're interested in. And I think a lot of people like metal more than, which I love hip hop. It's just, it's having to get into that and artists being like, well, you mostly interview metal bands. Why us? You know?
Yeah.
Like one of the things I'm trying to get into, my family comes from drag racing and I'm
Oh,
trying to get
nice.
into that field where I interview them and I can do it. I know a lot of the people. It's just having to like make that transition. And it's a very hard transition compared to when you do metal interviews. Like I did some 41, that's pop punk. I'm gonna have the bass player Bowling for Soup on pretty soon. I'm trying to make that transition in to make it more where I'm have like some pop peoples or like some pop punk people on which a lot of people don't understand, but it's all about that. It's hard to be diverse because it's hard selling it. Like with the base page, I'll cover Dua Lipa or Pink and they're like, "Well, we wanted like Ramstein or Pantera." It's a hard audience, you know?
Mm. Because it's almost like you're trying to satisfy their needs, but at the end of the day, you're trying to do that, but also do what makes you happy. So
Yeah.
you're like, it's a tug and pull type of thing.
It's a very t hard tug and pull. Like you have to learn what your audience wants, and half the time it's not going to be everything you want. Like anytime I like covering anniversaries. Anytime Pantera has an anniversary, Motorhead, anytime like that, that's when you do those covers because that's when you're gonna one gain the following, two, it's gonna be put in stream where everyone's gonna see it, and three, that's when you're gonna get all the likes because everyone's like, oh my God, Pantera, Metallica, which I love them. Those are, I mean, I have Pantera tattooed on me, but you know, it would be nice to see more diversity in the industry, like seeing hip hop interviews. I'd love to see more of that. I never see anything like you said. I don't see anything like that. I don't see any pop interviews. I just see endless metal interviews, and it would be cool to see some diversity, you know?
Yeah, I think it's because of this algorithm, and that's what thing that for me personally I dislike because you remember when like Instagram first started, it had like Explore. It said
Yeah.
Explore, and now it's I don't know, maybe they changed their name, but like you used to get to explore different things. Now, let's say there's a funny video I liked, I thought it was funny. Now I get like 15 of it back to back, and it's like almost controlling what you want
Uh,
and that sense of like when I found you, when I saw your content, I felt that sense of curiosity, but it was like, wow, this is amazing.
Thank
Like
you.
that natural stimulus that one finds within when they're happy or excited. And now it's a bummer. It's a bummer.
I love finding when people find me. Like I've had like what's cool about my whole thing is I've had like big people find me on Explore, like the bass player Rob from Epica. I've had Rob from Bowling for Soup find me. And it's Dino from Fear Factory. That's how we became friends. He popped in my DMs. He's like, "You were on my Explore. You're a really good bass player. Keep it up." And I miss old Instagram. That's how it used to be. You don't really get that anymore. Like, I'm scared of snakes. And recently I watched a snake video on
Oh man.
Instagram. Yeah. And then I'm just sending to my friends. I'm like, great. This is giving me my algorithm for 2 weeks. All snake videos. And I miss old Instagram. It made it easier to find people. I'm a bass player. I have Emilee Basis as one of my page. And basically, you would have it where I would see, oh, female bass player, cool. Then you start following them and like, supporting because it's a supportive industry.
Hmm.
Don't really see that anymore. You'll see like stuff you're like, okay, I watched one of those videos. That's my whole explore now.
Yeah, yeah.
Sucks. I miss old Instagram.
I miss a lot of things, man. Like it's just having the experience, able to find something that, that's good and sincere and, entertaining.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
that's what like I started like I used to like I'm I'm totally opposite from you. Like I don't care what the public wants. I want to dive in and I want to be, like for your example, like I found you. I want to learn about you. I want to know what you love, what excites you, like what made you passionate to go after, hey, do you, I would like to be one of your journalists. Hey, I would like to learn how to play bass. Like I want to know, I want to like that sense of curiosity that
Yeah.
people enjoy loving doing things. So like if you look at my catalog, I got, actors, filmmakers. I even got dog walkers. I got musicians, authors. Um, what else? I got mad stuff. But it's a diverse, but
Right.
it's a diverse sense of like, listen, this is my link. This is what I got. Explore.
Right.
And I think people have lost that deeply.
I've learned that people are, because I get told all the time I come off as very passionate for my content. I feel like a lot of the people
And you
just don't have
should.
that passion
Damn right you
anymore.
should. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I just you don't see people be that passionate anymore. And it's like with the algorithm, I think it makes people hard to stay consistent and passionate when, they don't get pushed in the algorithm compared to like people who are just lip singing songs and stuff. And that's where I feel like people just lose the passion. You don't end up getting to see people show love for it anymore. It's just, hey, let's get 10,000 followers and we're gonna just lip sing the new I don't know. I can't think of a big artist right now, but you know what I mean. Like,
Hmm.
it sucks. It's sad.
Yeah, like I'm looking at your background. You got Freddy Krueger, you got Michael Myers, you got the one and only
Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice, right? And that's a sense of creativity, right? Not like this week, Tim Burt, as I'm saying right, Tim Burt,
Yeah, Tim
his
Burton.
guy
Yeah,
has after years, right? His Walk of Fame, which I think you asked me, I think that's kind of effed up after so many huge movies he has done, right?
right.
And it's this thing of creativity that people have lost, and now they've fallen into these, TikTok, let's do a dance to get, a couple of likes. And like you said earlier, like the passion is not there no more.
It's just easier to get followers. That's why I have a TikTok, but I don't post anything because one, the licensing for a lot of the music that I do cover for my bass stuff isn't there anymore. And two, it's just like it's outshined by people that just want to do like that country dance that they were doing for a while. And it's sad. And then, like, the thing with the Tim Burton thing, like he's amazing and like he just put out Beetlejuice, and it's like honestly, like people need to be more passionate like that. Like that guy has put his heart and soul in everything he's done. And it's not like you don't see that often anymore.
Yeah. From the night before Christmas,
Right.
he was at one point he was gonna do like Superman Lives with Nick
Nicolas
Cage.
Cage.
Yeah, and the villain. When I saw the documentary, that I got like heartbroken. Was like the villain was gonna be like Brainiac, and then they took the concept of like this head with spider head, with their legs, and put it into Wild Wild West with Will Smith.
That would have been cool. That'd
You
been
know,
very interesting.
but Warner Bros. Tend to fuck shit up as always. But yeah, are you excited for Beetlejuice? Beetlejuice?
Yeah, I'm gonna wait a few days to go see it. I already got like a bunch of messages from my followers because if you see what I do post like tattoo wise, I have four tattoos of Beetlejuice, different characters, on tatted on me, and they're like, "Dude, you gotta go see it. It's amazing." I'm like, "Oh, wait till it clears up. I don't want to be like this the whole time, you know."
Hmm.
But I'm very excited. Yes, I've been dying. Michael Keaton's my Batman. I'm not gonna lie now. Michael
Yes,
Keaton's everything.
yes. There you
I love me
go.
some Christian Bale, but come on, Michael Keaton.
Yes. Yes, I agree 100%. That's my Batman.
Danny
That's
DeVito's
awesome.
my penguin too. So people want to fight me, they can fight me. Danny DeVito is my penguin too.
Yes, yes, yes. It was crazy that I was watching this video, and like in that movie they covered so much like discussions, like he was aborted. He had abortion, right? So many red flags that today presented today, I don't think it will ever survive because nowadays everything's so sensitive.
Yeah, that's what kind of sucks. Like you have to be very careful, especially like with what I do. You have to be very careful with anything you say or do because it could ruin your whole career. Just one thing. And it sucks, but like I understand people being sensitive, but we came from the Adam Sandler days and like the Jim Carrey days where it's like that toughened us up a little bit, where it's
Hmm.
you can't do that anymore. Like you and like I remember at one point they were trying to cancel Adam Sandler and I was like,
What?
"What? The genius himself?"
Hmm. Yeah.
Insane.
No, I think everyone needs to put some cream on and toughen up, you know. And not everything's so serious. Not everything's so
I
serious.
agree.
And that's why I think that's one of the things I wanted to build, like this brand I'm building. I wanted to be more based off me rather than somebody else. You know,
Yeah,
like I want to be, I want to curse, I want to yell, I want to talk. If given the opportunity, I want to say my opinion. I don't want to, how do I put it? Like walk on eggshells because then how can things be discussed?
right.
You know?
I agree, and like it's harder for people to do that. Like it would be cool to have like some more Howard Sterns and like this. Howard Stern's a genius, and
Yes.
it'd be cool to have more of that. And I feel like it's just like people are like, well, we can't handle it. Dude, you guys like don't understand. He was crazier in the 90s than he is today.
Yeah.
Like I wish there was more like, talk radio like that and have more people like that, you know? We need that. We
Yeah. And
need more of that in this
yeah.
industry.
And you know what's crazy that if you there's a Netflix show called Comedians Getting Coffee in Cars with Jerry Springer. He's a guest and he talks about like his insecurities, like you'll see a more humane side of him than what you'll see on his radio show. But yeah, man. I mean, especially like with metal. Metal is real. You know, it's real. You can't
Yeah.
get realer than that. And to almost like it being censored through like because of pop or you know, regular fucking normal genre that you hear on the radio. Like the radio's not even the same anymore.
I agree. And what I think kills me right now is I heard recently that they're trying to cancel Cannibal Corpse, and it's like you're really gonna try to cancel a band that's been around for so long already. Why? Because they actually put out artwork that, yeah, it's a little scary, but you know what? It's the like horror, and you're gonna cancel that, or the words to their songs. I just don't understand it anymore. Like they've been around for
Mm.
so long. Why now?
No, but you
You
can't
know?
like if you gotta cancel them, then you gotta cancel somebody like was it Marilyn Manson who like rubbed his balls in somebody's head without their consent. You know, so like you can't just pick and choose who you want to now dismantle. You can't do that, you know? And I think we're living in an age and we're like because everything's so sensitive that you don't know what's right or wrong anymore. You're just if I don't
Right.
like it, that's it, you know?
I agree. I just don't understand it. Unless someone does something very horrific where they kill someone, I don't see the point in canceling them. Or if they did something really wrong, which I
Mm.
won't say on here, because but like I just don't think lyrics and because it's a lot of the times some of this what I've learned from interviewing bands, some of the stuff is very personal to them, which not with Cannibal Corpse. Some of it's just telling like a story, like or if you look at like a band like Crash on Ground, they're black metal. Um, they have where they do concept records about serial killers. It's nothing serious. It's just that's what some people are into
Yeah.
like singing about, No
Yeah,
big deal.
it's no different than listening to like an Eminem who his first I think album or second album fantasized of killing his baby mama. So what are we talking about? It's no different from if you look at hip hop now, mumble rap, drugs and killing their ops. So what are we talking about?
Yeah.
You know, so we can't
Right.
go and scrutinize one genre in particular because at the end then everything is freedom of speech.
I feel like I feel like metal's always gonna be like, shit on because of the fact that if you look at the 80s, if you watch documentaries in the 90s, oh well, if it wasn't for them listening to Judas Priest or Marilyn Manson or this, they wanted to kill a bunch of people. It's they didn't tell you. Like I remember at one point I watched a documentary where Judas Priest had to go to court because it was telling the kid to kill himself. Do it. Yeah, do it. Kill yourself. And they looked back. Well, they didn't say that at all in the record. It's just I think metal's always gonna be shit on. That's just how it's gonna be forever. It
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah. I do agree. I mean, but it's hard, you know? It's hard. You're never gonna do right by anyone. You're always gonna be a villain in somebody's story. So, you know, have fun when you can. Enjoy
I agree.
as much as you can. If you know as a person, as a listener, as a investor, because essentially you're investing in somebody's craft, you know, do it as positive as you can and enjoy it because you can't always go live by what somebody opinion is because then
Okay.
there's people like fucking Jeffrey Epstein, with traffic kids. Are you gonna really compare
Right.
to a song and where it's they're not telling you, they're basically they're 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 just like us journalists, but doing music. You use it as you please, you know, the, and I don't know, man. It's just fucking crazy.
It
It's
is
hard.
crazy. Like it's just it's always going to be endless. I think music's always going to be a hard one for people to overcome, you know?
In any genre, because at one point rock and roll was illegal, right?
Yeah, especially like, oh, they do drugs, oh, they do this, they drink. A lot of people do drugs and drink. It's not just rock and rollers, you
Yeah.
know?
Especially,
Like
that
that just
stay at home soccer mom who has three kids, is popping pill like it's, a regular Thursday. And
right.
that's and that's true, right?
Popping pills and drinking wine
Yeah. And they
because
promote
those soccer
they
moms love their wine.
and they promote that on TV. So like you can't pick and choose
Right?
what you
That's the
want.
crazy thing.
You can't pick and choose what you want to uh argue about or attack on. If you're gonna do it with
Yeah,
all, you know?
I agree,
Um
man.
I was watching your episodes. Like, how do you come up with your questions? Or is this something because you're such a fan of what the person who you're interviewing just comes easy?
Yes and no. So like when I did the whole Flotsam and Jetsam one I just did, I listened to the record and I pull some stuff instead of asking how their writing recording process was for this record. What I do is I try to make them compare it from their first record or like how's their live gear change. It really depends on the person that I'm interviewing. Like when I interviewed Cohen from Sum 41, I've been a huge fan for my whole life. I think everyone grew up with Sum 41 basically from my age or from a little older, you know? And I asked some like questions where like I was like excited to know. So we grew up in the music video era. What's your favorite
I
music video?
know.
And like they had some of the coolest ones, or like same with Static X. They had some of the coolest. Or what I love to ask is like you watched in Too Deep, he's rolling in with that robe that says some 41. I was like, do you still have that robe? Or the action figures from the Hell song. And that's where that's becoming a fan because like basically I grew up with that. But if you look at like bands that I've interviewed, like Frozen Soul and like Flotsam and Jetsam, or even look at 200 Stab Wounds. I'm fans of the band, but like most of the time I know the band, personally. If I know them personally, it makes it a little less like, oh my God. But if it's Tony Campos or Billy Sheehan or Cone from Some Ford, those are people I grew up with my whole life.
Yeah.
And I made sure I asked the questions I wanted to ask while keeping it pro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you can't just like be like, "Oh my God, so what do you do on the?" You just can't be like that. I like when I interviewed Billy Sheehan yesterday, I made sure to ask for my personal self if he still has the bases from the 80s videos he did with David Lee Roth, and he does. And he showed me them and I was my brain blew,
Nice.
you know?
Nice. Yeah, yeah.
So so I take it from a fan's aspect if I'm a huge fan, but at the same time, it's not always asking fan questions. It's about just covering the record and seeing what they're doing differently in their career that they weren't doing or they were or weren't doing in the beginning of their career, you know?
Yeah, I got it. Got it. Is there any like is it as somebody who's in tune with the industry, like, is it any different for the new music that's coming out from new younger artists and now established veteran legends?
What I'm learning is that a lot of the legends that are still doing music, they're either like, they're trying to stay relevant and they're having a harder time with bands like, Falling in Reverse and Motionless in White, because like a lot of those people use computers compared to a lot of these bands like Flotsam and Jets and Doro, and they're doing where they're it's all real stuff, like they're actually playing. Well, okay, let me take that back. We're Falling in Reverse is actually playing, but they do need certain aspects of the computer. I want to make that clear so I don't shoot myself in the mouth right there. It's different. What they're doing, but I feel like a lot of these bands are looking what I found out with Cone. They look towards these newer artists and they're taking stuff like Falling in Reverse is doing where if you listen to the new record, it's country chorus, there's metal chorus, there's death chorus. A lot of bands are trying to, I like that they're trying to do something like that compared to a lot of bands just copying the same stuff they've done over the years, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. Is there any a young band that's coming out that you're looking forward to see what they do in the future?
I have to think about that. Because like a lot of the ones that are making it now that I'm actually excited for, they've been around for at least 10 years, maybe 15
Oh
years, but they're
wow.
finally getting their break. Yeah, like Knock Loose. Like it took them a while to get to where they're at, where they're playing with Slipknot, they're touring with Slipknot. I'm very proud of those guys. Like to have Slipknot letting you open for them. That's cool. Like bands like that I'm excited for. Or like Falling in Reverse, they've always been relevant, but at the same time, they're more relevant now than they were when they started. They're killing it. Like, or Emotionless in White, they're known, but now they're bigger now. Like, I feel like it takes like a good 10 years to get started. Or like Vended, like that's Corey Taylor's son's band. Like, he's been doing this for like a few years now. I'm excited for them. Or Undeath, like I just interviewed them. They're a newer band, but they're killing it. Or Frozen Soul too. They, I think, released their second record last year. I'm excited for bands like that. I want to see what they're gonna do. They're already doing big tours, and that's really cool to see that they're getting those, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Is across across the pond from the States is the scene of metal more bigger than here?
Yes and no. So I feel like we have like a lot of bands come from here, you know? So I feel like we have a good amount of bands that come from the US, but I feel like what Europe does is bigger than what we do. We have Aftershock, we have Incarcerated, we have we have those festivals, but you don't have the legendary ones like Hellfest, Download, Wacken, you know? And those are ones that everyone craves to go to. But we do have like the ones where it's kind of a mixture. But I feel like across the pond, they give metal more credit and more love than we do,
Mm.
you know?
I can see that. I can see that. Is there like you obviously you've been doing this for quite some time. Is there like specific or favorite episode you have recorded you've been able to interview? They're like, that's my favorite. Or, imagine somebody who's a fan of it, all of them might be your favorite.
It's really hard because like I've recorded so many ones over the years and like one of my ones was my first biggest one was and he's a friend. I grew up watching them play Havoc. Dave from Havoc. I want to say it's one of my favorite ones, but like that was one of my first big interviews. So like that one will always have a little small place in my heart. But the newer ones like I've done because I keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger artists and it's blows my brains, you know? Right now, if I had to pick a favorite one, I'd have to do like a maybe like a top five-ish, like Becky Baldwin. She was a sweetheart, and she's from Merciful Fate. She like gets to hang out and play in King Diamond's band, his other band. She's one of my favorite episodes. We're just chilling, kicking it on there. Sam from Frozen Souls, another one. Like friend, badass bass player, badass tattoo artist, amazing. Then you have to think like Cone from Sum 41's always gonna be one that means the world to me because like Sum 41's that band that we're always gonna love. And then Billy Sheehan, I've always looked up to him. And to interview him, he gave me the time of day. Like he didn't have to do that. I need it more than him. He can do any interview, you know? And like to round it off, like thinking back over the years, like I've had to really think. Dora was really cool. I think that one would probably mean the most to me just because she's our metal queen and
Yeah, that was a good episode.
she partied with everyone. Judas Priest, Lemmy. Her stories were just like what? Like she could just keep dropping names and it's so cool. But Doc Coyle was a good one too, where he's in Bad Wolves, but he played with Ice Nine Kills, but also toured with Metallica. That's that's some bucket list shit right there, you know?
Yeah. And especially like so many untold stories, right?
Yeah.
Like if that was covered more in the media, because like look at I know like Dora she did with Dio. and she had stories about him. And I met a lot of people throughout the years that are big fan of his. Like they would love to hear stories about him and see how he was and see how he's like,
Yeah.
or something, learn something they never knew he liked, a random thing or random fact.
I'm bummed I'll never get to interview him or someone like Lemmy because like I'm a Rickenbacker player. My base is right here. And like I'll just never get to interview him and talk about why he called it his Ricken bastard because that's what was called, you know? And he's a big Rickenbacker guy. I just there's so many stories that need to be told before all this goes away because we're getting closer and closer to bands like Judas Priest and Dora, like they're getting up there, you know? We need those stories out.
Yeah, and you don't have like the way the music industry has going just in general, like you won't have people to step up to their level because they're essentially so a lot of them were breakthrough artists that broke a generation that did something different. And it's hard to do that now in the music industry. It's very hard because it's whatever genre it is, it's almost like pop. It's the same concept, same thing, saying like it's just a repetitive. It's on replay, but just for different forms, And I think that sucks balls.
I agree. What I tell a lot of people, once Metallica's gone and done and they're not a thing anymore, I don't think there's going to be a biggest metal band in the world anymore. Yeah, Pantera is like really relevant and known, but is it really Pantera? You got to think about it like there's no Dimebag, there's no Vinnie Paul. I feel like once Metallica's gone, I feel like everything's just going to be kind of like there. That's the biggest band in the world,
Yeah,
metal wise.
yeah, yeah. No, and then that's also like you said, like there's these bands that are originals, but they don't have the original components to the band.
Yeah, a lot of times. Like, I interviewed the dude from The Sweet the other day, and he's the only original member because of the fact that everyone's died. Like, that's
Whoa.
when it's like, yeah, it's very interesting. Like, that's like, or like, look at Quiet Riot. The only person that's in that band that was in there in the beginning, Rudy Sarzo. And it's like, for me, like, it's very interesting, but at the same time, it's like, when are you gonna say, dude, we're not even a band anymore? This is all just a super group, you know? That's
Yeah.
my opinion. Like I appreciate them doing it and keeping it alive because people should hear Fox on the Run or Come on, Feel the Noise or but like there's just so when the original singer's not there or any of the super original members, more than one, like what's the point in my
It
eyes?
becomes a cover band, right? Like you correct me, a cover band because like the essence of it, you're just singing repetitive song that somebody sang. Like
Yeah.
you don't even have your own persona or own, you know, thing in the band. It's another cover band.
What kills me right before we did this interview, because I work with this day in metal, so we have a group message, and they sent me that Linkin Park has a new singer, and I'm just like,
It's a female, right?
yeah, like why? Like, like I get it, but I don't get it because no one's ever gonna replace Chester. Like a lot of these bands don't get it. You're never gonna replace that member, even if you're just gonna make a new rendition of the band. Like it's gonna be something that has nothing to do with what it was.
Yeah, it's like if you're gonna, it's like I look at the example of Nirvana. The lead singer died, and then the one who played the drums, he started Foo Fighters, but no one knew he could sing, he can write, he could play a guitar. Like it has to be something like that you have to reinvent yourself as a musician, as an artist, as someone who believes that this is their true calling.
What another band to look at that didn't start again after, their singer died was Typo Negative. And like I was talking about John, that's another one of my favorite interviews. I forgot that. Johnny Kelly. He's like, yeah, like once the band was over, that it was over. Like you can't replace someone like that. You just can't replace Peter Steele. And a lot of people just don't understand. Some stuff is unreplaceable and it's nothing you can do. But I do agree with like I was talking to Sam from Frozen Soul once and she's like, so what is the other band member supposed to do? Just say fuck it, like we're not a band anymore because someone dies or leaves. So I understand that part of it though. It as a fan more than anything, it's just like it I don't
Mhm.
get it.
No,
But I
especially
get
it's
it
like
from a
when,
musician's
yeah.
aspect.
No, it's especially like when you're making money. But then again,
Hmm.
like when, like you said, if all the members die and now people are just covering to cover songs of that band, like then who really owns the band? It was never them. It was the corporation, the record label, and you're just trying to keep the money afloat.
Right. I agree. Like it's very interesting. Like the music industry is a very interesting industry, you know?
God, it's like right before your episode with Dora was about to end, she was saying something about like the industry and talking more about that. Like, you know, it's how do I put it? Everyone has to be educated when it comes to that. It can't be just more than a passion. I want to do this. You really gotta, know your stuff at one point.
I'll be talking to people and they're asking me stuff like about the industry, and I start listing off licensing and promotion and how record labels work and how every like the whole big picture, the outside of it, just looking like this is so much fun. And then I'm like, I sit back, I'm like, wow, I know a lot of stuff. And they're like, well, you should, it's your job. But the thing is,
That's
a lot
not
of
your
people
job.
going into this,
Yeah.
a lot of people going into this, they don't get it that you need to know all that stuff
Yeah.
and take a music business class. Like I know MI offers stuff like that. It's a good thing to know, especially if you're signing contracts or have a like lawyer look at the contract, before you do anything. That's one thing that even she said. Have people read your stuff before you do anything and be very careful, because once you sign it, they own it. I
Yeah.
had Bonded by Blood, like really good friends. I just dropped a show review on them. And Jose came on my show like a few years ago, or it was like a year ago. He's discussing, the thing is always look at a contract because you don't know how long they're going to own your music, and a lot of times you have to pay them off and they still own your music. And that's insane, man. It's your music, but you own it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not
And then
fair.
and then also like, they'll like I remember when I really got in tune with when it came to the contracts, like I remember the documentary from 30 Seconds from Mars, the Jared Leto stuff, and where he
Hmm.
basically says they're giving you a loan. They present everything like this is your money, you're signing, it's yours, but it's really a loan. You got to manage that money, you got to manage studio time and to create this product, but also now go promote it, go on tour, go whatever to you got to pay that money back. And I wonder like how many really great bands own their masters.
A lot of them don't. I know that there's people that like Jerry Montana was what telling me once. He's like, these still own hell yeah the music that he did with Benny Paul. Like they're finally gonna get that, and it's like okay, and it's very interesting to find out stuff like that. Like he was like one time he was explaining to me that a lot of times it takes a lot of years to get your music back, and a lot of the times, like you're saying, this is you're getting money given to you, but it's given to you. A lot of times pretend it's the highest interest credit card you ever will get.
Mm,
You owe them what you got and maybe the same amount back. You might owe it twice because of the interest rate. And that's what's insane. A lot of people don't know what they're signing.
yeah.
They think that they're like, I remember Ghost got $1 million money. They got that given to them before they started recording advance. And they don't get it. You have to pay that back. They will pay it. I'm assuming they paid it back. They're one of the biggest bands out there right now. But still, man, imagine that.
That
It's crazy.
sucks. Years of trajectory doing it and you don't, you're still paying debts back.
It's
And
crazy.
and what's crazy because like they'll put you in a predicament and we're like, okay, so you won't pay that, then let's make a new contract. And this and this. And then, something happens, you have to do it again. So now you're 10 years in the hole, paying back, making, for artists minimum wage or something like that. So
That's what
it's
touring artists make, really. A lot
mhm.
of a lot of touring artists make minimum wage. I've been told this many times. And like a lot of bands get dropped from their label, and guess what? They still own your music. They don't care. That's
Yeah.
why record labels, a lot of times, you need to look at what you're signing before you sign it. And if you don't, then you deserve to be screwed because you had that option to have it looked at. It's not like you have to sign it here or it's out.
Hmm.
That's what a lot of people don't get.
Right. It's like I can imagine you're sometimes in a difficult predicament because you're speaking to these amazing people and you they start saying things like what? And then now you got their publicists or PR like holding back. Well, don't put that there. Don't say that. Like it's difficult. Like I remember like 2 weeks ago, I had a first time ever a publicist sit on an interview I did in the background. And she was watching, she was listening to everything that was said. And every time something popped up, she would butt in, can you not say that? So I edited that out. So it's very frustrating because you wanna you wanna be able to say what you say and you know become a figure of inspiration, but yet it's so difficult because especially when you owe money, you can't just go in
Mhm.
blah.
To be honest, I've never had that. And a publicist has never told me I can't put something out or like take something out. I've had it where they watch them and they write me and they're like, wow, that was a really good interview. I've never had it. I've had one sit on my interview once. I was interviewing KK Priest singer Tim Rip Owens, who was also in Judas Priest at one point of his career. And I got to talk about Judas Priest, no problem. She sat on the interview, like, in the little square up top, but she wasn't in the interview. She couldn't care. She told me after, she's like, "You're a hell of an interviewer. I would love for you to interview the rest of my roster if you're down for it." And I've never had it where I had to worry about anything I say. I mean, like to be honest with you, I kind of keep it probably like a PG-13 anyways.
Yeah.
I try to make sure, like, I'm gonna eventually have Johnny Kelly from Typo back on, and I'm gonna bring up the time that they went on Jerry Springer. Like, that's very interesting shit. Like, come on. Or like, their singer did Playgirl. That's like if a publicist got mad about that, it wasn't Johnny Kelly that did that. It was Peter Steele that did that. Like to be honest, if a publicist really wanted to tell me I couldn't put something in there, then they should send me a list of stuff I can't talk about. And I think that's fair game at one
Yeah.
point because you have to think as a journalist, that's when you say off the record.
Hmm. Yes. 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 Yeah.
How many movies or like documentaries have you seen where nothing that you don't say that were because you have to say that first off the record, blah blah blah. A lot of that stuff gets used. Why do you have to take it out now? They should have said off the record or send you a list of something that you cannot talk about. And I
I
think
agree.
that's fair. And if they don't send you that, I think it's fair game to talk about anything.
Yeah,
One
I
thing I
agree.
don't talk about is drama in my interviews, so that's why I don't think I ever get in trouble. I know when I talked to Nikki Misery from New Year's Day, he wanted to address the bass player stuff that happened, his ex bass player. He's like, I wish you brought it up. And I was like, I don't talk about drama on my show. And he's like, I get it. But I think that's why I've
No,
never been
because
blocked.
then, but also like they talk about it, then after they reflect on it, like it's happened to me, and where I've had to pull the episode out, and this is where like I changed my structure, and we're like, I'm gonna go on a week, and I'm gonna record, and I'm gonna create a vault of 5 to 10 episodes, right?
I
So
get you.
that you know it pulls out, somebody pulls out, there's another one. Because
I
as
get it.
journalists, like for me, this is my career. I built my own company up. I didn't want to sign with anybody. I wanted to explore what's out there, right? And when you're independent doing it solo, this is your bread and butter. This is what's essentially is
Yeah.
gonna continue building you up and becoming a figure that you can be trustworthy to talk about is your reputation at the end. So I didn't like that. That was very distasteful, and like for me, I'm very confrontational. I don't play games because it's your
Yeah.
career, so I hear you 100%, and kudos to you for keeping it that way.
I follow a structure just because I kind of have to, especially like one thing that we talk about with this day in metal, we don't talk politics and we do not talk religion. We keep everything like that out of the because then one thing I don't ever want to become is a gossip columnist. Like I don't want
Oh
people to be
yes.
clicking my stuff because that's one reason I don't bring up drama. I don't want them to be clicking my stuff because like I have
Clickbait.
one
Yeah.
person that I didn't take the interview with because he wanted to address domestic violence on my show, and I was like, that's just not what I'm looking for, dude. I don't want to you clearing up your life on my show. It's not that's not what my show's for,
Hmm.
and I keep rules and I keep boundaries. And that's what I've learned really hard with this industry because a lot of these people become your friends after you just got to keep boundaries because you're going to do. you're gonna do more interviews with them
Hmm.
endlessly.
Yeah, you're gonna build a relationship, a rapport, trustworthy, hang out. Like because essentially that's, what a journalist does. At the end of the day, you go whether you go on tour with him, whether you hang out with them in the bar, essentially you're trying to get a story and you're talking, you're gonna build a certain rapport with them. Like it's obvious. So you have to keep your boundaries.
I agree all the way. I wish it was more like that. But a
Like I
lot of people don't get it. They don't
yeah,
get outs. I've had people think outside of what I do that I want to date them or like I'm doing this for dating. No, I'm doing this to build a name and a resume and have a bitchin' resume for doing what I do. This is not like, and I tell a lot of people, this is not what this is not how you get dates. And because people are like, are you sure you don't want to, that's why you wanted to meet me? I thought, no, this is all serious business and I stay pro from the beginning, even if we're friends. I've learned never shit where you work.
yeah. It reminds me of the Hulu documentary, The Brat, famous teen pop stars, right? In the I think 80s, 90s, right? And they all went out with a journalist who was up and coming, I think right for the New York Times, right? And when the he wrote an article one day when it came out, it just bombed.
Yeah.
And basically, not I don't want to say end their career, but there were some actors that couldn't overcome that
Yeah.
because when you're out there and you see them partying, like they're not your friends. They got hired to wire. Like it's an honor to hang out with your favorite artist and your band, and like it's the moment you relive in your head. It's like I can't believe it happened, but it's also like you have a job to do.
You do. A lot of people don't get that. Like, I get offered after interviewing, yeah, you're gonna forever be on my guest list if I come through LA. And that's cool. But like, you got to keep it like where you don't get drunk and you don't want them to see your other side that's not business. Like, you want to make sure boundaries. That's like one of my things I tell everyone, boundaries, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's cool though. Like I get guest listed to a lot of shows now from doing press. Like I'm going to Carnifex in a few weeks where I'm gonna do my second show review because now I do show reviews too because the state medals allowed me to do that now.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice,
it's
and you keep growing.
yeah, like it's cool. Like I started off from radio, then I drifted into podcasting on my own. Then I approached them and they are letting me do writing and I still get to have my podcast too. It's like it's cool. I get to it's just more work because I have to give them stuff and keep stuff for myself, you know?
Oh man, the editing process is horrible. I don't
I
like
know.
I did you was there a specific radio station you doing radio at?
It was a Razor Radio. I know recently went to where he's FM actually, which I wanted to like add that to my resume because it was all internet radio. I wanted to be like, cool, I was on like an actual radio station, but it didn't work out at the time of my life. He always tells me I can send him my interviews and he'll play them on there. But no, it wasn't certain radio. It was just Razor Radio. It was it's still going. I still talked to Andy Ford. I talked to him the other day. Cool guy. We're always gonna be chill.
I remember I did for this company, it was developing an app called Audiolus, and so they had a different radio station and I applied and I got country. So like for a year I was doing country radio, but
Nice.
and I had to edit and the only thing I didn't do was the music. They had like an automated system that all you had to do is record your stuff, put it in, and it'll time frame everything. It,
Lucky.
but it was a great experience, but it's just like it wasn't satisfying career wise. Like I wanted more. I wanted more. I want to see what it was go. But it was basically an app and where, they were paying people based off commission who could
Yeah.
bring somebody who wants to buy a radio station or something like that. And it was a great experience. That's why like I told you earlier that you have a great voice for radio. Very nonchalant, very straight to the point, very like people can understand the message you're trying to put out there, right? And uh, man, if the opportunity, I wish you best of luck.
I don't miss doing radio though. Like I still listen to so many albums for this, but I don't miss the welcome back everyone. We just played da 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 from da 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 da
Yes.
da. and we have a special guest. We had this and this and this, and then you start, let's get into this. And then I don't miss that and being like, well, now we're gonna play, but I don't miss doing that,
Did you
dude. I
do
do not miss.
ad-libs?
I At one point, like it took me a long time to decide how I was gonna end Razor Radio because we're gonna play this on radio. At one point, it was Razor Radio, and everyone laughed at me.
Oh
I'm like,
man.
they're like, it has to be more brutal. You're a metalhead, so I'm like Razor Radio, and then we just started laughing. Whenever I watch my well, not watch, listen to my episodes, I'm like, I've
Man.
had the guest he laughing as I'm saying, and I'm like, I know it's horrific. I'm sorry, guys.
Man,
I
I had said, this is Wall 95. Wall 95. Oh my God, it was so corny.
At least you don't have to like say you're so brutal. I don't miss doing radio though because you're lucky. You got to put the music went in. You didn't
Yeah.
have to do all the editing for the music. I had to cut it into four pieces.
Mm.
So okay, my entrance. Well, no. First, it's the song that brings me into my thing, which is always violence. I don't know if you've heard of that thrash band, but my slogan for my metal show was, and we always start Monday off with violence. Fun times. And I started off with violence, then I do my entrance, and then I'll do the whole two tracks back in, two tracks back in, like, and then ending of the show, and then the last song. And then I had to cut and put it all together and then save it, listen to it. Yeah, the thing gets an hour long,
Yeah.
and then send it in. Or at one point they were making me program when time it goes, and I was like, oh, just do it for me. I don't want to do this.
Oh man.
It was fun for what it was. I would probably do it again if he wanted me to, but I don't miss all the editing too much. Because you already count, you're like, when you're editing, you're taking out all the dead space anyways. And there is
A
so
lot
many
of that.
people.
Yeah.
What kills me is what I try to do, and you've seen me, is I'm trying to stay on track of how we're talking. So I don't leave you a bunch of dead space. I've had people leave me like 10 seconds of dead space. That ain't cool, man.
I've been there. I still even like I'm lucky that when I upload it to Spotify now, I used to have to remove the audio like separately.
Yeah,
So now I had to edit the video, now I gotta edit the audio. And it's now I could just edit the video with the audio and upload it and through
that's how,
their
yeah.
distribution, they'll do it their way. But yeah, I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. And then you have, like, for me, I have guests that, like, it's hard for them to talk. They want to be on the show. They come, they're looking for me. I want to come. Then when they come on the show, it's no conversation. So it's like I'm pulling words out of them. And like, well, okay, thank God I did this, the bullet points to keep the conversation going for 45 minutes. But
Right.
it is brutal. It's time consuming.
No,
And
I agree.
oh man.
I've had people where they're like, we want to do an interview with you, but we don't know how to do this. And I was like, well, why don't you sit there with me and we can like I've offered to give people lessons on because you learn how to talk really quick when doing
Mhm.
interviews and you learn how to keep a conversation really well. And people watch me, like one of my friends went to the show with me on Saturday for my first review, and she's watching me and I'm just talking to everyone. She's like, how do you do that? When you're in radio, you're not scared to talk to anyone or
Mhm.
even podcasting, and you learn to keep a conversation. I have offered many people if they have a problem with doing interviews, I will give them lessons. It's really easy to keep a conversation.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not hard.
And then podcasting is more easier because it's like you don't have this restriction of radio. Like
I
especially
don't.
if it's syndicated radio that you can't curse, you got to follow the guidelines and rules and regulation. Building your own, that's what I like, building your own platform. You can like, like make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. Like I've when I like the hardest thing for me is editing because I cringe every time I'm looking at myself and I say yes, I
Oh,
slur, or I say like or I say something that's like, damn, like it drives me crazy.
how many shows have you done?
Uh I got right now 280, no, 182. This will be 183, 84. I got already preset.
I,
Uh,
I ask because like it took me, so I've done over 60, maybe 70 interviews like lifetime because I've taken time off here and there. Um, it takes a while to get used to like like hearing yourself talk. That's why I asked because like it took me so long to be okay with hearing myself. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to hear. And then now I'm like,
yeah,
that's my
yeah,
voice. I
yeah,
sound nerdish.
yeah. It took me a while too. It took me a while to get over like I'm over myself. Let's just do
Right.
this. Let's just do this because it's something like I've always wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I want to, I'm like, I call myself like a late bloomer. I, once I, you know, pass my 30s, like, that's when I learned to realize, damn, this is re what I really want to do. Like, I
Yeah.
wasn't, a high school kid and we're like, I know what I want to do, like I wasn't those kids.
Yeah.
So after doing it, I'm like, okay, let me start perfecting it. Let me, I used to let it run for hours. All right, let
Yeah.
me shorten it. Let me stop saying this. Let me try to be a little more professional. If I'm gonna curse, let it be in a place that it can, the moment is savor, like
Yeah.
it's meant to be there, So it's a trial and error all the way, but it makes me happy. And much like you have goals, I want to keep growing. I want to make this the bread and butter of my life.
Yeah. I never thought I was gonna do this with my life, to be honest with you. I thought I was gonna tour, which eventually I will. I know I'll join a band and tour, but I never thought I was gonna interview bands. I never thought I'd find it passionate because like I don't even watch interviews, man.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's like interesting to find that.
But it's fascinating as well because like you're not interested into, but like you're talking about, it's not a job when you're doing something you love and you're
Yeah,
passionate about. Like you're waiting to join a band, but like you're getting all this experience, all this knowledge passed
yeah.
down from you, than somebody who just got the opportunity at an early age doesn't have and has to go through the trial and errors.
What I give advice on people a lot of times, if you want to do stuff in the music industry, podcast, because in all honesty, I'm not just sitting there hoping out, waiting. I join a band. I've had a few offers, they just fall through, and that's how it is. That's how life is. And to be honest with you, like you meet a lot of people. I never thought I was gonna have fucking Tony Campos's number in my phone or Billy Sheehan's or Dino Kazar. Like I never thought they were gonna be friends of mine. And the thing is, it's all from podcasting. It's not from me maybe being a bass player helped a little bit, but it's all from podcasting. And that's my advice I give to anyone that is having a hard time making it in the industry. Become a podcaster that interviews bands or even just has like how you do it, where you talk. And the thing is, you'll learn a lot in the industry and you'll meet a lot of cool people, you
Boom.
know?
That's awesome. That's awesome. So with that, let's end the show. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for
Thank
giving me out the opportunity and talking with you, man. I had so much fun. I'm looking forward what the next thing you do. I
you.
already subscribed to your YouTube channel. I already follow you, so you got me hooked in. And before we go, please tell the people where they can find you at.
You can find me. I have two Instagrams. One's Emilee_Capogni. The other one's Emilee_Basis. If you're into bass content, that's where that. But the interviews do go on there too. I also have a link tree in both of those bios where you can see my YouTube, which my YouTube should be Emilee Capogni also. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn. You can find me. I don't really use my LinkedIn, but you could find me on so many different platforms. Always check out This Day in Metal, their website, amazing website. A lot of cool journalists on there too to check out. And I think that's, oh, I'm also on X too, Emilee Capogni, or maybe Emilee Basis, one of those. You'll find my name on all those.
Boom, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure to go support her, go read her content, go listen to her content, share her content. This is how
Thank
we are able to support one another and to continue growing. Thank you so much. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, Mr.JamesBarberTang. Go follow me on Facebook, Diomar King Diaz. Like and subscribe our YouTube channel, Deal Talk TV. I'm out, guys. Have a good night.